All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're talking college football, and it is conference championship week. Those who are going to be hoisting up the trophy, saying that you have won your conference, maybe punching your ticket to the playoff. We have a lot of undefeated teams out there, and a lot of teams really, really hoping to get that shot at that last four-team playoff. But the man who's a legend, who claims he invented the peppermint mocha latte in Vero Beach, my co-host Fresh. Fresh, how you doing?
Hi, it's Christmas time. You got the peppermint mocha latte going. It's soothing. It's good. It's delicious. Haps, I'm doing great. Championship week. We are rocking. Something great about just winning a conference title. We talk about the playoff and getting the New Year's Six bowls, but there's still something rewarding about winning a conference championship. And I think that's what this weekend's all about is those conferences, the two best teams, whether divisions or top two in the league, getting there and squaring off to hoist the trophy and claim that ever-ending, everlasting title that they are the champion of the league for the year.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a special time, and the cool thing is that almost all of these games are played on a neutral site. So all the games we're previewing, at least, are played on a neutral site. So let's go to probably maybe one of the underrated games of the weekend, but a huge game that could have monumental impact, and that is the MAC championship. The Miami Redhawks, they're 10-2 on the season, 7-1 in the conference. They're going toe-to-toe with the elusive Toledo Rockets, 11-1 on the year, 8-0 in the conference, maybe one of the best Power 5 teams. A lot on the line for Toledo in this game. Good showing out of Toledo. Big win if they can beat the Redhawks, who are down Gabbert in this game. He's out for the year with a broken leg. If the Rockets can do that, they have a legitimate chance to be the Group of 5 representative in the New Year's Day 6. If they aren't, you're off to the Bahamas Bowl or the Boca Raton Bowl or whatever, or maybe the Gasparilla Bowl. I don't know who the representation is at. But this is a fascinating one, Fresh, because everything right now points that Toledo should boat race Miami. But line opened up. Toledo is only a 7.5-point favorite. Over-under is low in this game, 46.5 points. This game was close earlier in the year between the two. They played at Miami. In that game, 21-17, win by the Rockets at Miami. Fresh, DeQuan Finn, Penny Boone, electric. But what you got for me?
Well, I mean, like you mentioned it, 2 losses for Miami of Ohio, the Redhawks. Obviously, the season opener, to the Miami Hurricanes, and then Toledo in that 21-17 matchup. Been playing pretty solid football. Really, the defense has been carrying the football team. Offense sort of managed its way through. They're not extremely explosive, and now with Gabbert not playing, that really puts the quarterback situation at bay where you don't have that experienced leader under center. You have the backup trying to get comfortable and moving the offense as they can, which might work to your advantage because Toledo might not have film on them or as much film, so it sort of helps from that preparation perspective. But overall, you're coming in with a little inexperience offensively. You've got to have that defense play the best because, Finn and Penny, they're the fuel for the Rockets, and they are explosive when either of them get the football in their hands. So you can't really let them get loose. You can't let them get too far ahead, or they're just going to coast the rest of the way. And then that's where the approach needs to be very defensive oriented for the Redhawks and locking it down. These teams don't play very much outside of this season. Prior to this season's game, they hadn't played since 2011, and then before that, they met in 2009. That's the last time the Redhawks beat Toledo was in 2009. So it's these obviously opposite divisions, don't play much, don't have that familiarity. But a chance right here for Toledo to win back-to-back MAC titles and really keep that momentum going. It's still Tulane ahead of them. Other schools, a couple in that Group of 5 situation for New Year's Six. But if they go out there and put on a show and Tulane loses and maybe they get bumped up, you never know what happens with the voters who get impressed. So go out there and do your thing. But in the end, if you win the MAC back-to-back years, you have a trophy, that's still something. And the MAC is one of those solid Group of 5 conferences that has really, really rich tradition and history that back-to-back titles don't come, few and far between. You've got to be able to lock it in there. So I think let Finn roll, let Penny roll from their offensive perspective. I really see Toledo jumping out in an early lead. This game is going to be in Ford Field, in a dome, on a turf, the fast track. You don't have to worry about the elements up there in the Midwest coming into play in this ball game. get after early, score early. Do not let Red Hawks hang around. Miami, if you have any chance of this football game, defensive turnovers, maybe you get a blocked field goal or a punt to the house, something you've got to make something creative happen and something really explosive happen, chaos plays as people call them, to really keep yourselves in the football game. You don't have the offense that can get on track meet with Toledo right now. And considering their only loss was by 2 points to Illinois, granted Illinois was an under 500 football team not going to a bowl, but it's still a Big Ten program. This team has shown they have the prowess and the ability to compete at a high level. So Miami, you're going to have to really lock it in, play tough defense, cause turnovers, run the football, milk the clock, try to be the more physical football team. Do not let Penny and Finn get loose and the rest of those guys for Toledo, because it could be a long afternoon. And the game could be over at halftime. You've got to slug it out and make it ugly and slow it down to a pace where it's on your level, in your terms. Do not play on their level because you might not be able to catch up. In the end, I think Toledo blows past Miami and puts on a show and wins big. I don't think I'm going to say for me like a 21, maybe 24-10, maybe ball game, maybe 24-3. It's going to feel a lot worse than what the score is. I think they're going to shut it down in the second half and run it out, but Toledo will win comfortably.
Fresh, I'm going to give you. I don't know if I want to call this a hot take, but again, Miami's game plan has really got to be similar to what they did in the regular season matchup. You take a look. Toledo made a strong commitment to the ground game in that football game, and they ran the ball 46 times. Now, would I advise Toledo to go away from that offensive game plan? Absolutely not. But they did pick up. It took them 46 carries to get 158 yards. That's about a 3.4 yard average per carry. Finn did have a touchdown, but you take a look at Penny Boone. Penny Boone is one of the best running backs in college football that isn't he might be the best running back that's not at a major program. And I'll give you a little peek behind the curtain. Fresh and I are working on our post regular season All-American teams right now. And Mr. Penny Boone is getting a second team vote from me to make our All-American squad. The kid is electric. And if you look back at that Red Hawk game, he had 17 carries on the game for 73 yards, 4.3 yards per carry, and that didn't find the end zone. But if you look for him on the rest of the season, the kid's averaging over 7 yards a carry. He's got 15 touchdowns on the year. He's got a long of 71. The kid is electric with the ball in his hand, and he's done that only on 183 carries on this year. That's why I look at him, and I see him being one of the best running backs in all of college football. DeQuan Finn is just a fun quarterback to watch. These are the type of quarterbacks you see out there in the MAC. They're going to run around a little bit. They're going to sling the ball all over the place. They're going to play fast and loose with everything. He's done a good job, though, protecting the football. Only 8 interceptions on the year. He's taken a couple of sacks. Need to look at this. This game changed with Gabbert going out for the season. When he wound up having surgery on his right leg, I really think that there's a difference there. If Miami can stop Toledo's ground game, then we got a ball game, folks. Buckle in and get locked into the MAC football game because you're going to see a close back and forth one. If Miami cannot stop the run game in this football in this contest, then it's going to be a long afternoon. I got 31-13 in this game, Fresh. I got Toledo winning big. I think that the committee is going to look at Toledo and say, that's a really entertaining team. And Toledo has shown that they've been able to at least put up points against the big boys. And at the end of the day, when you're talking about bowl matchups, that's what you want. You want offensive explosions because these games, again, if you're not in the playoff, they are meaningless bowl games. Yes, people will say, they do a bunch for your recruiting. Your alumni might get a nice little vacation in the month of December. But realistically, it is all about getting the best TV ratings that you can have. I'm going to go with Toledo for this. Hey, I'm advocating put them in the New Year's Day 6, man. We've had a couple of years here. Tulane had it last year. They've had their day in the sun. They beat USC. Let them live on that one. It's time to put the Rockets in New Year's Day 6. Give me the Rockets in, though, 31-13. And I actually have the under coming in, which shocks me a little bit. I thought I'd be saying take the over.
And folks, this game's on ESPN, so if other matchups in that noon hour are not enticing or kind of get out of hand early, switch on over and watch them action because you're definitely gonna enjoy it.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. All right, Fresh, let's go to the Atlantic Coast Conference, the ACC title game. Hey, Florida State, 12-0 on the year. Big win over the Gators, losing Jordan Travis on the year. That just really, that's a kick in the pants. And then you have a team like Louisville, 10-2 on the season. Brom's first year there at Louisville. They're 7-1 the ACC, but they're coming off a bad loss to Kentucky. They've lost to Pitt this year, and Pitt, while we think Narduzzi's a good coach, that's not a great Pitt team over there in the state of Pennsylvania right now. Right now, at the time of record, though, Florida State only a 2.5-point favorite in this game. I don't know, Fresh. I mean, it's going to be Benson, and more Benson for Florida State, but can they do it against this Louisville team?
Well, I think it really starts with Tate Rodemaker. He looked serviceable over Florida. They rallied around him. He took a hard, nasty hit, which I thought it was nasty. Somehow he came back in 2 plays later. If he can just play within himself, you don't have to be Jordan Travis. You obviously don't have the athletic ability at the same level that Travis does. Go out there, be yourself. I think that's why the spread is so low, because you really just don't know how they're going to play, and they're expecting Louisville's defense to be a little better than what Florida was. But if he can come out there and just play within the system, trust his receivers, because the talent on that offense, Benson, Coleman, Wilson, Bell, the list goes on. They're loaded. Trust the playmakers. Be within your down and distance. Make the right throws. Don't try to overthink. You don't have to score 1,000 points. Just go out there and one play at a time and get it done and manage it through. You'll be just fine. This Florida State defense, they're going to show up. They know they have a little more pressure on them to make plays down the stretch, because as it is right now, it's Florida State winning, you're in. If you're undefeated, you're in the playoff. You can't keep a 13-0 ACC conference champion out of the playoff. That's just impossible. I don't care the quarterback situation or not. The only argument they would have is if they lost this game to Louisville. I think you just got to go out there, manage your business. Do not the moment be too big. But Florida State as a whole, you've got to play for Jordan Travis. Just like we said in the Florida game, you've got to step up your level of game. You've got to play a little harder, hit a little harder, make the extra tackle, study a little more in the film, lift a little more, be prepared. Because you have a challenge right now where you don't have Jordan Travis to bail you out in some situations, which he has done so far this season, and use his great abilities, whether it's his legs or his arm, to maybe make up for some lacking in some certain areas. You have to play now as a full team. It means every single one coming together, studying harder and playing tougher, and you're coming together for the back quarterback and making his life a little easier. It means running crisper routes, better blocks, hitting the hole quicker. Do not put him in situations where it's third and long, because Louisville does have some talent. So Florida State, manage the moment. Do not let it be too much for any of you. You have it right in front of you. Do not let the moment scare you. Go out there, take care of business, and you're in the playoff. If you lose, you might have that what if moment the rest of your life of we could have gone on, maybe won a national championship or gone to the playoff or whatever, but we didn't get it done in the ACC title game. You don't want that to ever happen. It means you have a chance here to go take care of business and make sure that never becomes a question, and do what you have to do. Just because it's a backup quarterback doesn't mean the season's over. Go out there and work it through. Run the ball a lot. I do think the way they're going to get it done, you mentioned earlier, Benson left, Benson right, Benson down the middle. Run the ball all day long. Make Louisville quit, especially in the second half. That's also how you protect your quarterback. This is a win and in here thing. You don't have to be sexy. You don't have to be pretty. You just got to win. Looking at the Louisville side, Jeff Brom, Jack Plummer, they have to play free and mistake-free football. They've got to play free. They can't play uptight. Come in there, get it done. Do not overthink the situation. You overthought it big time versus Kentucky. You had too many turnovers. You just couldn't get the job done. You've got to play better. You've got to play carefree. You have nothing to lose. Nobody's truly giving you much of a chance. Yeah, it's 2.5, but I think everyone expects Florida State to win. You've got to go out there, just trust yourself. The pressure's not on you. The pressure's on Florida State. Go out there and play. Get it done. Sling the ball. Make the right reads. You've obviously had a great season. You took care of Notre Dame back in October. You've got to play with that same kind of carefree attitude where nobody gives you a chance and just let it loose. You looked a little tight the past few weeks versus Virginia, Miami, and then obviously versus Kentucky. You've got to switch that momentum and play a little carefree and go out there and get it done. Because if you play tight, this Florida State team is already hungry, and they'll run you into the ground. You've got to come out there and be a little more focused and a little more open. If they're going to do that and get away from that 3 turnovers versus Kentucky, giving up the 100-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, Jack's going to be the number one guy, but it's also going to go through Jahar Jordan. He's got to run the ball and be consistent all day long. You cannot get away from the ground game. That keeps the Florida State offense on the sideline. It keeps your drives going. It keeps control of the football game at your own pace. You've got to keep them involved. You cannot get away from the running game. And then Jamari Thrash, your leading receiver, hasn't caught a touchdown since Notre Dame. He's got to be involved. He's actually got to score. You've got to have some sort of passing game, but throw the ball on your terms, not because you're out of desperation in third and long. Use him when you have to out of play action, but he's got to get it in the end zone, and you've got to score some touchdowns. Field goals do not beat Florida State. Touchdowns do. You've got to get that part of the game taken care of. It's not just the offense for Louisville that needs to step up in this football game. Defensively, they've been very leaky the past few weeks. They've given up 35 points or more only 2 times this season. Both those were the losses, but the past 3 weeks in general gave up 434 yards and 24 points to Virginia, 120 rushing yards, by the way, 486 total yards and 31 points to Miami, 159 rushing yards in that game. And then last week, only 289 and 38 points to Kentucky. Now, they did have 2 drives. One was 20 and one was 22 for Kentucky because of turnovers. You had the 2 short fields that allowed 10 points. You've got to be able to minimize that, control the football, protect the football, make other teams get to some of those 3 outs, flip the script. You cannot allow offenses to come out there and just drive down the field because those Virginia and Miami and Kentucky's offense are nothing compared to what Florida State's about to roll out here. If you play anything like you played the past few weeks, you're going to get the doors beat off you. You've got to step up and play a little tougher. Coach Braum obviously had Purdue last year in the Big Ten title game, and they played pretty strong with Michigan for the first half. Maybe some of that experience of playing against a really highly rated team and a very good football team when you're the underdog lends its hand here in this game, allows you guys to get yourself focused and come play a football game. In the end, I think Florida State is on a heater. They understand what's in front of them. They see the light at the end of the tunnel of if we win, we're in the playoff, and everything from there, you just roll with it. I think Florida State wins. I think they cover it handily. I'm saying they win by 2 touchdowns, maybe even 17 points. Putting it away late, but Florida State will get it done. They will step up and support Rudemaker, and they'll take care of business. Knowles are throwing down the spear and heading to the playoff.
Well, Fresh, it really is going to come back to how can Louisville stop Benson in this game. You said Benson left, Benson right, Benson up the middle. You and I and the defensive coordinator for Louisville Cardinals know what's coming. They're going to run some Trey Benson quite a bit in this football game. If Louisville's able to stop them, are they able also to make life different for Rudemaker just so he can't get the ball to Travis or Wilson? You take a look at Wilson on the year, 2 touchdowns on the season. Keon Coleman's kind of become the primary wide receiver in this offense here. I'm waiting for Johnny Wilson to have the big breakout game. That could happen this weekend. He has every imaginable that he should be like this dominant, unbelievable wide receiver. And for some reason or another, he just doesn't maximize his potential. I don't know if that's play calling. I don't know if that's his route running or discipline or just being a kid, because again, the kid's, still a college student here. So come on, it'll come a break. Louisville is able to stop the run and force it to be all about Rudemaker. Then guess what? I think that Louisville's got a good shot to pull off this upset. I think Louisville's angry. I think they're upset that they lost to Kentucky. And they have an ability to make the world forget about this football game. Florida State, ever since Jordan Travis went down, all of a sudden we're waiting for the clock to strike midnight. It's going to strike midnight. Either it's going to strike midnight in this game or it's going to strike midnight in the first round of the playoff. While Florida State is a very good football team, they're not a great football team, especially without having Jordan Travis. They're very, very good. I would tell you this, that Florida State has the ability to beat 93% of every team in college football. The difference is going to be when you get into the playoff. This is a different level. Florida State hasn't been there for a very, very long time. They're without their leader. That scares me a little bit for Seminole fans. If you win this game, you make it to the playoff. I'm very nervous that you're going to get embarrassed in the first round. I mean, legitimately embarrassed. I think this is a good Seminoles team. I think that I think Norvell, if he had Jordan Travis, wouldn't have the situation. But if you're rolling with Rudemaker in the playoff, then watch out. Fresh, I'm with you. I went back and forth in this game. I don't think it's going to be a huge win because right now Florida State's only a 2.5-point favorite. I'm going to go Florida State by a field goal, 3-point win. Give me a 31-28 type of game. I think Plummer's going to have quite a good football game for him. Jake Plummer played for Arizona State. But I think that there's going to be one of the quarterbacks is going to make a mistake. Is it Rudemaker? Is it Plummer? Who makes the mistake? Who throws the costly interception? Who gives the defense a short field? That's what's going to come down to. The fact that we have to wait till 8 p.m. for this football game, folks, come on, broadcasting networks, put this game on at noon. Let's watch it. And I would actually move our next game to the later slot instead. I'd rather have the Big 12 title game in the later slot. But yeah, I'm going to say 31-28, and the over comes in because over under set 48.5.
If Louisville's in this ball game late in the fourth quarter, it's because two players on their defense that have stepped up and made plays. One, Ashton Giatti, 11 sacks, currently leads the ACC, and then Devin Neal has 4 picks, third in the ACC. If those two are making plays, that means they're shortening the field, they're giving Louisville chances, and they're keeping them in the ball game. If they're not even being heard of in this football game, that means Florida State's destroying them.
Right. All right, Fresh. Let's go to the Big 12 title game and preview them. The Oklahoma State Cowboys are going to be facing the Texas Longhorns. Right now, at time of record, Texas is a 14.5-point favorite in this game. This spread opened up at 11.5 and is already up to 14.5. Over under is set at 55.5. We talked a lot about this. If Texas can shut down Ollie Gordon, it's good night, Irene. Put the kids to bed. It's ball game, folks. If Ollie Gordon can keep rolling with what he's done, kid's got 20 touchdowns on the year. It's a heck of a running back. Texas is going to have their hands full. Oklahoma State does have a half-decent offensive line, so be careful on that. But I think Texas is they can see what's in front of them, that they have the opportunity to make a statement win. Fresh, I asked you, what you got for Oklahoma State, Texas?
Well, we already started off. It's Ollie Gordon, left, right, around, catching the ball if he can, whatever. He has to be obviously heavily involved. But outside of that, Bowman, the quarterback, has got to find some sort of passing game, be more consistent. He needs the running game to make sure that offense stays under the right trajectory, right down the distance. And if there's no running game, I don't trust him to throw them back into the ball game. I think that's what Coach Gundy and them are worried about. They've got to stay within themselves. They've got to stay on their pace. And when they are successful against a very good defense, it's going to be a struggle. Yeah, they were able to come back versus BYU. They've been able to come back against other teams because their defenses weren't as good. This Texas defense is elite. You cannot fall behind by double digits and expect to come back with as much ease as they have been lately, especially with the ground game, the heavily focused as Oklahoma State is right now. You've got to be able to play ahead and play in your terms. Very similar, I'm not going to compare Oklahoma State and Michigan, but their philosophies of the team are very the same. You run the ball first, run the ball second, 2 tight ends if you have to, very physical at the line of scrimmage. You throw when you want to, not when the defense forces you to throw the football. That's how the Oklahoma State and Michigan are actually very, from the philosophy standpoint, are very same. They run the ball in their terms. They're very physical at the line of scrimmage, and they throw when they want to, not because they have to. And that's where if you want to beat Oklahoma State, you got to get them down early, and then make sure your defense is good enough to hold on and lock them down. If you're giving them any hope, they can scratch and claw, get back in the ball game, but they are built to lead and play from ahead in a physical football game and then wear you out and make you quit in the second half. Texas defense in the trenches, this is your game to show up and lock it down. If you can own the line of scrimmage and be tough and play physical football, you will take down Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, if you can run the football, but then maybe add some wrinkles. You have nothing to lose. Nobody's giving you a chance in the football game. Maybe you play a little more loose. Maybe add a little more play action wrinkles, or more quarterback keeps on the boot. Add something else. Use what you already know. We all know Ollie Gordon's my opinion, the best running back in the country. How can you build off of that? Create some opportunities on film. Get creative with the offense. Go out there, maybe a little more play action early on. Force that secondary. Force those linebackers to take an extra step and play an extra yard off. Give them something to think about every time you come under center or out of the shotgun, and they're not just looking at the running back. Because then eventually, if you get the passing game going here and there and splatters, it opens up holes in the running game. Maybe change the offense a little bit, be a little more open and free. And remember, last time you guys played in this stadium, you were a half yard short from beating Baylor and potentially going to the playoff 2 years ago. You were a half yard away from winning a Big 12 title, and that kind of slipped away. How many guys in this team right now were on that squad 2 years ago? Where's the extra pain, that drive, that desire that you had? You were so close and you couldn't get it done. I'd be showing that game film and that final play every single day right now in the locker room as motivation of, we were this close to a Big 12 title 2 years ago. I don't care who we're playing. We've already beaten Oklahoma. Let's go out there and just let it all hang loose. Can we do what we did to Oklahoma to Texas? Can we say, you know what? You're on the way out. Goodbye. We're gonna make sure you don't get a trophy. Whatever you can. We already know the Big 12 commissioner tried to throw shade during the summer and try to talk up Texas Tech. And really, I think Texas is kind of angry. I think that's the deep down motivation. But if you want to, throw it out there and right now and send them out the wrong way, this is your opportunity. Play loose. You have nothing to lose, but be creative offensively. Don't just be the same over and over, run the ball. You have to be a little creative because this defense is too fast and too physical, and they will shut you down immediately. You've got to be dual opportunities. You've got to have a passing game a little bit. You've got to be able to attack them when they're vulnerable early and often and play on your terms. Because if Texas gets going with that offense, it could be, like you said, good night, Irene, and that defense will just continue to tee off, and then you're throwing the ball when you don't want to, or you're throwing out of desperation, and that's where sacks come, that's where picks come, and it just becomes an avalanche of Longhorns coming at you all afternoon in Arlington, Texas, which nobody ever wants to see. You've got to go out there, play on your terms, just like we mentioned previous before, as the underdog, throw in some wrinkles, but play on your terms and take it to the Longhorns. Texas, maybe you're a little pissed off that you didn't get to play Oklahoma in this ballgame. You kind of want to have a chance to redeem yourself, but isn't it kind of a little, vindication, a little justification that they didn't even make the title game and you're here? You have everything in front of you right now. If you win, you're probably going to need some help. You're obviously going to be big Alabama fans and big Louisville fans. If you win big to get you in potentially in that playoff, but you have to take care of business first. Don't overlook Oklahoma State. Go in there and take care of business. Run the ball, throw the ball, do what you have to do. Play your elite defense. Impress the committee all you can. In the past, we've always been waiting for that one shoe to fall for Texas. In all the previous years, they had that one game they stumble over. I've had faith in you guys all year. You've kind of continued to carry through. You've gone to Tuscaloosa and you've gotten a win there against a very good Alabama football team. Don't let Oklahoma State be that one stump. Don't overlook them. Don't think that you're a shoo-in for a playoff and you're going to overlook Mike Gundy and his, Oklahoma State Cowboys. Because if you do, it's going to be a real sad day in Arlington, Texas, and you might not even get a sniff to playoff because you'll have overlooked them and you're tripped up. Focus on what you have to do. Go one play at a time. Take care of business. Quinn Ewers, make the right decision. You've played better all year long. His receivers, the talent is there. Now it's time to put it all together and get yourself a trophy on your way out of the Big 12 and potentially get in a playoff bid. Be focused, one play at a time. Don't let the moment become too big because honestly, if you get here, the games get bigger. The playoff, if you get in, is a lot bigger than what this game is going to be. And this game right here is obviously bigger than going to Tuscaloosa in September because this is for a trophy. Focus in on one play at a time, take care of business, run the ball, throw the ball, be physical, own the line of scrimmage, and you'll have a day. If Ollie Gordon gets loose and he's still relevant in the fourth quarter, you'll be sweating bullets and you may not survive. Take care of business early. Do not let the running game in Oklahoma State hang around the second half because you might be sorry. In the end, I think Texas wins big. This is actually my lead pipe lock of the week. I think they are so focused right now and so driven. They are going to own this football game. It's over at halftime.
Lead pipe lock of the week. Where the heck did that come from, Fresh?
Just locking it down. It's in stone.
Yeah, but why a lead pipe? Is it something
I just like the phrase.
Something we break your kneecaps with if you're wrong with this one?
Hey, I like Clue. Clue's a good game.
There you go.
Pipe in there. It all works.
Right. Fresh, you really didn't say anything different than what I got here come forward. I think, again, I messed up last week talking about the run game for Texas. Jaden Blue had a game for him against Texas Tech. He needs another big one for this one to, kind of put it between him and Ollie Gordon. But you know what? I'm more impressed with Xavier Worthy. He was Pro Bowl week last week, wound up playing through an injury as well, playing hurt Kid probably is really wishing like he, get some time off. And this is a big opportunity. You could leave the Big 12. Brett Yormark has made some very outlandish statements towards the Texas Longhorns, probably because he's a little butthurt that they're leaving. Yeah, I get it. You can be a little butthurt for if you're leaving. And he does not want to see them peace out with the Big 12 title in this game. He really doesn't. Ollie Gordon, you got to have a day. And even then, I don't know if that's going to be enough for them. Texas is in the same position for me as Ohio State was in 2014. Ohio State was just outside the top 4 of the playoff. What did they do? They went into the Big Ten title game and absolutely destroyed a really good Wisconsin team. I mean, absolutely put the boots to them. This is a lasting impression type of game. You're going to have one of the two teams get knocked off between this, and then all of a sudden it's going to come down to, the winner of Oregon versus Washington is going to wind up in the playoff. You think Michigan's going to handle business versus Iowa. The winner between Georgia and Alabama is going to be in the playoff. And so then it really goes into that conversation. You're rooting for Louisville. And then even if some chaos starts to happen, Texas wants to make sure the committee has the lasting impression of them. I'm going to tell you this. I think the committee wants Texas in. I think they want Texas in just for the eyeballs that it's going to generate. They're the most lucrative college football program in all of America. Quinn Ewers definitely been playing out of his mind this year. He's closing in on that 70% completion mark on the year. I think that if he goes into this game and you take a look at, what he did last time against Texas Tech, he had a really, really good game going in there. Again, I like Ewers. He made the right throws. He leaned on his running game when he needed to. If he can go in and just have that type of game, don't make any big mistakes. Don't make where you wind up with a 3-interception game. I know it's not a common thing for Ewers if it's ever happened. But what I'm saying is you don't force yourself too much. This is one of the type of games where it's okay to be a game manager. Like everyone's like, oh, that's a bad phrase. No, it's not. Tom Brady was a great game manager. He was one of the best at that. He managed the football game. He let the football game be dictated on his pace. That's what Ewers has got to do in this football game. He's got to dictate the pace in it. Is this going to be the opportunity when it comes down to a 3rd and 6 and you're at midfield? Are you able to pick up that first down? If you're able to do that, not only are you going to wind up being Big 12 champions, you're going to wind up having an opportunity to make some noise. This is a really good Texas team, and I think we've kind of forgotten how good they are because of that one, very, very late loss in the Red River rivalry. And I'm telling you, Fresh, this Texas team, you could really make some noise in the playoff. I think if they get in, watch out for them. They scare me if they get in. So I got Texas winning.
They were in my if you look at my Twitter, I've had them, Michigan, Ohio State, and Georgia as my 4 playoff teams, even going into the preseason. So I've had high thoughts on them. They continue to get better at the line of scrimmage, focused and driven. Sark is actually kind of coaching like an adult. He's had some ups and downs, some moments. I think last year was kind of irrational all over the place. But this year, the team is playing much more focused across the board. Ewers has even grown up, and they look the part. But you have to, like you said, about the Ohio State in the first year of the playoff, go out there and just lay the lumber to them because you are the first game on Saturday. If you put up a number, people are going to look up at the scoreboard the rest of the day and afternoon, especially if it's, and seeding comes into play. They're going to see, like, man, Texas put up 62 on them. Dang. Right. We got to score points, and the pressure's on us to really impress the rest of the day. And that actually might get people to freeze up because they're trying too hard. So you go out there and post a number early. It's like qualifying for a Formula One race. You put a number on the board early, you're set.
Right. All right, Fresh. Let's go to maybe the game that has the most amount of intrigue, and that's the Pac-12 title game out there in Viva Las Vegas. Oregon, 11-1 on the year. They got 1 loss in the conference. It was in Washington against the Huskies. They're facing the Huskies. They're 12-0. This Washington team, who they remind me of, though, is TCU. Is that all the second half of the season? Is this the week Washington loses. Is this the week Washington loses? And then all of a sudden they're going up against a really tough matchup. Oregon is currently a 9.5-point favorite in this game, which I was like, that's a lot of points for a neutral site game of a team that hung a loss. Fresh Bo Nix, Michael Penix, huge matchup. You got Dylan Johnson, Bucky Irvine, and then you got Odunze and Clifford Troy Franklin. Again, these are great matchups going on here. What do you got going on for Oregon, Washington?
Well, I mean, first off, can Dan Lanning and Bo Nix finally beat Washington? They've lost the previous two, both 3-point ball games. If you lose your third matchup, people are going to start raising questions about Dan Lanning. Can you coach in a big game? And will it be tarnished Bo Nix's career? Like, you never actually won the big game. So this is a lot at stake for the two of them. Obviously, the Heisman voting just got released today. They just sent all the votes out to all the voters and the living Heisman winners themselves to vote on who they want. They have until December 4th to get their vote back in. If you vote early, maybe they're going Jaden Daniels. But if they hold on their vote until Sunday, this game might decide how they sway. If Bo Nix or Penix makes a major comeback, I think Penix is third in the race. But this is a big deciding factor of, do they put it on Nix's shoulders and let him go run rampant out there and put up some points, or does he struggle and see that Heisman Trophy and a playoff and a conference title sort of slip away? Where's the psyche when it comes to this football game? The Ducks have been winning very convincingly all season long, except for that loss to Washington. Only 3 games this season have been decided by 10 points or less. Their wins over Texas Tech and USC, as well as their 3-point loss to Washington in October. They have 1 game decided by 14 points. That was Washington State. The other 8 games, they've won all of those by at least 24 points. I mean, they're blowing people out. There's no mercy. This is like Cobra Kai stuff. They're getting after it and they're destroying folks. It has been a complete dominant effort offensively, defensively. They made an early season statement against Colorado. That win doesn't look as impressive right now because Colorado has been such a disaster, and they've kind of come back to earth real quick once it hit October. But I think that was the initial statement of, you know what, you think that they're good? We're really good. We're going to make our statement for the nation to watch. And Oregon did that, and they've kind of set from there. If they had beat Washington early in October, I think they're probably number 2 in the country, maybe even number 1, just because of the momentum, the way they're just handling people left and right. But here we are. They still have it in front of them. They have a chance to win a Pac-12 title. Are they focused? Where's their psyche? Are they ready for a battle? This one's neutral site. It's not in Seattle. It's not in Eugene. How do they show up? Where's their mentally capacity at? Is the defense ready to play as well as the offense and take out Washington? When looking at the Huskies, they have had a long stretch of close games, which you can look at as a good thing and a bad thing. It's good because they're finding ways to win late. They're not getting scared in the moment. Teams might be giving them a battle in the fourth quarter or trying to come for the upset bid, and somehow they find their calm. They get a drive in there or two. They get a couple touchdowns or get a couple stops, and they get out with the W because in the end, you're 12-0. It doesn't have to be sexy if you're undefeated, but they're here. We're kind of looking at going back to the Arizona game September 30th. The Huskies have won every game by single digits except for USC when they won that by 10. That's 8 straight decided by 10 points or less. It means they're winning tight games, not blowing people out. Penix Jr. stats kind of calmed down a little bit as the season's moved on, but yet they're still winning. And W's matter in the end, no matter what. They're only averaging 27 points a game over their last 3 games, but they were averaging 41 in the previous 9. There's a big offensive downtrend right now where they've dealt with some injuries, guys being in and out of the lineup, cohesion, people also understanding the scheme. How does this offense perform? They've had a little slump right now. They're going to have to score 30-plus to beat Oregon easily. Can they ramp it back up and get ready on Friday night out there in Vegas? That's a big thing I want to see. Where's that psyche come from them? Can they play in a track meet again? And they had the home crowd up there, the Purple Rain up in Seattle to help them sort of get a late stop and make have the energy to keep playing. Where will their focus be when they need a late drive against an Oregon team that is hungry for a title and hungry to finally beat Washington? You mentioned Rome, Jalen Polk, Jalen McMillan, Dylan Johnson. They've all got to have a game. They've got to be there for their quarterback. If that ball hits their hands, they've got to catch it. You can't have drops, can't have fumbles. You've got to hit the hole. You've got to run the right route because with the offensive validity and veracity that Oregon has, you cannot waste drives. And the same thing for Oregon. You can't waste possessions because that Washington team, they could turn it on this week and score 40. You've got to be able to match every single thing. Touchdowns for touchdowns. Field goals do not win you this football game. You've got to score touchdowns. So both offenses got to be clicking because both defenses have been hit or miss, when it comes to big moments. I want to see what Oregon defensively can do in this matchup. They haven't really stopped in the previous two matchups, given over 30 points. Can the Oregon defense come out with a little extra fire and keep Washington under 30? They haven't done it this year. They didn't do it last year. How will they make adjustments? How will Dan Lanning and that staff make adjustments to have his defense ready to go? How will the Washington defense? They have some flash. We saw Trice come into the year. They only have 19 sacks on the season, but they forced turnovers. They forced 17 so far. So that's where they're getting it. They're going to give up tons of yards. They're not going to give up the quarterback. They're going to bend, don't break, but they are going to force turnovers. Be aware of the control of the football if you're Bo Nix and that Oregon Duck team. And very similar for Oregon, they're going to get their sacks. They're going to get their turnovers, but they're in a bend, no break against better teams. But most teams they haven't played do have an elite offense outside of USC and Washington, and they had given up some points in this ball game. So which defense shows up in this game? Which defense can force turnovers, get pressure on the quarterback? I think Oregon has fuel. They have a hungry fire. This game will be another close ball game, but I think Oregon wins this one 37-34. I think they're the ones who come out late. They're the ones who get the last possession. They find a way to connect late in the ball game this time and actually win. The Ducks don't blow them out. It's a back and forth ball game, but they win 37-34 in Vegas, capture the Pac-12. And I think that is just enough to get them in the playoff.
So Oregon's got the second best defense in the Pac-12. But then I looked at, teams that have an offense fresh that me and you would sit down and talk about and be like, they legitimately scare us. And in those games, Oregon has only really held a offense, limited an offense. And that was Oregon State last week in the Civil War at home in Eugene. I don't think that they're going to be to limit this. Folks, the over-under is set 66.5 right now. I'm going to tell you, probably take the over in that. This is going to be Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. in a shootout. I want to see this being a game where one just continuously tries to upstage the other. This game's on Friday night, and it's going to be a fun one. We're going to know a lot about the college football playoff going into Saturday morning. One of these two teams is probably in. Although Oregon may have a case because their strength of schedule is so weak. If they win this game and they're still not rated as 4, I think they're going to need a lot of help maybe in the front end, but I have a hard time leaving them out when they've gotten revenge for the one loss that they had on the year. I think the X factor for this game is going to be the running game, though. Fresh, it's going to be whoever's going to be able to run the football and to play complementary football with the passing game. Is it Bucky Irvine? Is he going to be able to hammer it home? Is it Dylan Johnson for them? You take a look at someone like Jordan James, who had a nice little game against Oregon State. Is he able to kind of show up and show out? Like, who's it going to be? In the end, Fresh, I'm with you. I got Oregon winning this game. They're going to get revenge on Washington for it. I got Oregon winning in a shootout. Give me 42-41 in this football game. A lot of points, no defense, very, very close. 1-point victory by the Ducks.
How long is that from kickoff to the end of the game, commercials included? How long do you think that game's going to last? I think it's 8 o'clock is when it goes live in Vegas on Friday night. I figure probably 8, maybe 8:10, 8:12 kickoff, midnight. About a 4-hour game.
It's going to be a 4-hour game because it's going to be a lot of passing and a lot of points, a lot of quick touchdowns. I think it's going to be a lot of points, Fresh.
And touchdowns equal commercial breaks.
Right. All right, Fresh, let's go to our last game of the week before we wind up doing our quick hitters. Right now, we're going to the SEC title game. It is the Georgia Bulldogs. They are 12-0 on the year, undefeated in the conference, and they are going to face a familiar foe in the SEC title game. This game's at 4 o'clock. It's the Alabama Crimson Tide. They're 8-0 in the conference, 11-1 on the season. Right now, the spread opened up at 4, which I thought was a very accurate number for me. Georgia was a 4-point favorite. At time of record, that spread has moved all the way to 6 points. Over-under is set at 54.5 here, Fresh. I got some thoughts. I'll save it to the end. I'll turn it over to you. Go ahead, Fresh. What you got? Georgia, Alabama.
Well, first off, dogs have a ton at stake. Two-time defending national champions, but can they actually beat Alabama in two straight meetings? They haven't done that in a long, 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 long time. Can they win back-to-back SEC titles? They haven't done it in the championship game era. They maybe did it back in the 80s. They did back in the 80s, but they haven't done it in the championship game era. That's another thing they can look to accomplish. They haven't done yet. That's at stake. Can they beat Alabama in Atlanta? Haven't done that. A win gives them 30 straight games and keeps the hope of a three-peat alive. Can they keep this thing going? Can they keep the dream going? Can keep that momentum going? A loss, honestly, probably keeps them out of the playoff. A win obviously keeps them going into the playoff. There's a lot hanging in the balance of this football game against a foe that you know and they know you very, very well. There's a history there between both these programs. Obviously, the Tua and then 2021 season, January 22. Dogs then, Keithy Ringer run down the sideline versus Alabama and finally win the national title. There is history. There is back and forth. There's a lot at stake when it comes to this ball game. Brock Bowers should be okay to return. Ladd McConkey trending in the right direction. Tate Rutledge guard probably going to play. Robert Thomas probably going to, he's up there. Status is still day to day. Long shot, coach said today, Jamon Dumas Johnson, week to week, probably not going to play. So with the fractured arm. And then Julian Humphrey's back. So you have some injuries. So guys are getting back and healthy for the Dogs. A lot of them sat out and didn't play for Georgia Tech. Are they truly right 100%? Are they going to play 80%? How long are they going to last? Are they going to be in specialized packages? Obviously, we'll see that when it comes on Saturday. But getting them back and having that full arsenal available, because they're going to need it in a big game. They're going to have to score some points to beat Alabama. This game will be decided at the line of scrimmage, as it always is. Which offensive line and defensive line will take charge and own the game? Who will lean on the other team? Who will own the trenches? Who will force it down? So that come the second half, that running game truly takes over. Which offensive line can pass protect and give that extra 2 or 3 yards in that run blocking game? And which front seven for the defense will be able to attack and own the line of scrimmage? Line of scrimmage, line of scrimmage, line of scrimmage. That is the key. Who has that true desire to own that piece of territory and dictate the football game in their terms? When the dust is settled, whoever's done that obviously will have won this football game. And that's going to be a full 4-quarter brawl. It's not going to be decided in the first and quarter. It's going to be a wear you. In the fourth quarter, the product of whoever's dominated will eventually be fulfilled by the yardage being picked up and time being had for the quarterback, so on and so forth. Who can own the line of scrimmage? Who is up for that challenge in the war in the trenches in this ball game? Georgia's defense has been susceptible to quarterback runs and the stretch perimeter run game all season long. That really comes down to how are they going to be able to manage it and take this out, whether it's McClellan running the ball, Williams, more importantly, Jalen Milroe and his legs. He is explosive. He creates plays. He breaks down the play, uses his legs a lot. They're not designed runs at the time, but when the pass play or boot breaks down, his ability and his athletic skill to take it to the next level and make things happen, whether his legs are getting the first downs or his mobility in the pocket is creating defensive backs or linebackers to come up to stop the run and hitting deep throws down the field behind it. How does the Georgia defense align and cover that, shut down, maybe contain that running game, set the edge on the perimeter? That's going to come down to the linebackers. Even the corners going to step up and really be active in that run defense. Smile London, Raylan Wilson, C.J. Allen, where are you guys going to be? Your guys are going to be in the backfield, or are you going to be watching your players and playing your marks at the linebacker spot and tackling at the first position and not allowing those missed tackles to become 10, 15, 12 yards after? Wrap up, play contact, play smart. Do not get lost in the misdirection. Georgia Tech did a lot of misdirection, did a lot of perimeter run game. Ole Miss has a lot of perimeter run game. We had some moments in both those games where they were a little off. You've got to be able to clean that up, get better, because if not, this is going to be a long day, and Jalen Milroe and that running in for Alabama will be very productive. You've got to be able to contain and tackle, wrap up at point of contact. Even today, Kirby Smart compared Milroe to Lamar Jackson with his size, his ability and mobility, his constant in movement to make things happen. You're looking at most of his completions and most of his explosive touchdowns are all 20-plus yards down the field. His medium passing game isn't it that great? I think it's about 52%, maybe 53% completion percentage. But when he gets 20 yards plus, he hits the big money because his legs are creating those defensive backs to keep peering in the backfield, and receivers like Burton are getting behind him. You've got to be a full complementary. You've got to trust your system, got to trust your teammates to be in the right spots, and do not let those Alabama receivers to get behind you, and let everybody else wrap up and take care of their business. That's how you take it, because Milroe will beat you deep if the opportunity presents itself. McClellan, I mentioned earlier, questionable coming into this ballgame right now. Obviously, this is early in the week with a foot injury. It's lingering kind of there. If he's not good to go, where he's kind of limited, you're going to see a lot more of Roydell Williams, but definitely Milroe being the third leading rusher is going to have a say in that ground game for Alabama. Before anything else, we've got to give a lot of credit to Nick Saban and Tommy Rees, the way that they have reinvented this entire Alabama offense. They were a mess early in the year. I think everybody will admit that, including Coach Saban. But went down to South Florida. Milroe didn't play. They kind of benched back, brought him back in, figured out what he's good at, and they've constantly grown and grown and grown, using his legs, using more of a spread mobile quarterback opportunity to really make them more explosive, letting the receivers get open in the secondary, maybe making trash plays. I'm using trash air quotes as junk plays, broken down plays, becoming profitable touchdown drives. Letting those things happen. Doesn't always have to be 3 yards, foot in the ground, hit the throw. Letting things happen using your ability, letting the defense collapse and become exposed. They've done a great job building around this. How are they going to have be prepared for this Georgia defense? And how's the Georgia defense going to be prepared? What wrinkles are going to be shown on Saturday? What have both teams been preparing? Because obviously they've known about this matchup for a few weeks. They've been putting stuff in their game plan up to this point now for a while. What wrinkles do both teams show to try to get an advantage on Saturday afternoon? I have a feeling, though, Jermaine Burton, being a former Georgia wide receiver, now playing for Alabama, he's eccentric. I'm going to say probably the best way to put it. He's looking to show up and have a big game versus former team. There's definitely some fans out there who have chirped and happy that he's no longer a Georgia Bulldog. He's done some things off the field that have been very questionable up in Rocky Top. Hand gestures and things to other people throughout the years and the weeks and the touchdown celebrations. If he can have a game, he's definitely going to show himself. So be mindful of that. You got to contain him. And if you're Burton, don't let your emotions get too much of you, because the refs are going to be watching you. And if you start chirping or doing something stupid, you will get a flag. You got to play within yourself and be a little smart. Don't lose a football game due to your extracurricular activities. Play within the self and let your play do your talking. But Georgia, watch out for him, because he's definitely set, mindful to have a big game on purpose to show up and show out. Dallas Turner, Jahad Campbell, Deontay Lawson, Kool-Aid, Caleb Downs, they're legit playmakers on this Alabama defense. It's another Alabama defense, folks. I don't care who they are. They put the crimson helmets on, the white, this is obviously wearing the crimson jerseys in this game. They show up, they play discipline, they play fast, they make plays. How does this Georgia offensive line get after the second level and shut them down, especially with Dallas Turner? He's a playmaker off the edge. How do you keep him out of the ball game? How do you reduce his explosive abilities and take advantage of maybe him over pursuing in some situations? Because this Alabama defense has definitely grown. As the offense has gotten their feet under them, the defense has always been there all entire year. Do you have something special for them? What do they bring to this football game to help their offense? This is a moment. Alabama has nothing to lose. They're probably not going to the playoff unless absolute chaos happens, but they are 100% focused on getting another SEC title and keeping Georgia from going for a three-peat, something Alabama hasn't done. So there is drive, there is focus, there is fire. This is going to be a pad-popping 60-minute brawl. It's Nick Saban revenge tour. He's already beaten Tennessee, already beaten LSU. Now he has his sights set on Kirby Smart and the Dogs. What does Georgia have? The pressure's on them. Everyone expects them to come in here and win, but everyone also wants to see them lose. You've got to wear it. You got to wear it with honor. You got to wear it with pride. Everyone's targeting you. This is what happens when you're the champ. Everyone wants to take you down. Keep the fight going. Versus ranked opponents, you've been wiping the field with them. 3 of the 4 ranked opponents this year, you've beaten by 4 touchdowns. I don't see them beating Alabama by 4 touchdowns in this game, but they've definitely shown up when the lights are brightest. Do the Dogs have one more full event in them? Because this game, are they ready to show up? In the end, I think Georgia has just enough talent to beat Alabama. This will be a brawl all day long, all 60 minutes. I think Georgia wins 34-31, maybe a 31-27 ball game. It will be 3 to 4 points when it's settled in the end. Georgia will somehow survive. They'll score late, but this will be a brawl, and it'll be worth watching from start to finish.
Fresh. It's been since 2015, 2014 that a team has beaten Alabama in back-to-back attempts, and that's Ole Miss. It's something that doesn't happen very often. I went back, I looked at common opponents for this, and really, coming off the Auburn game, that was an interesting thing. When both of those teams played, both of them needed basically a fourth quarter miracle to win the football game. Both of them did. Georgia needed Brock Bowers to play like the superstar he is. Alabama needed a miracle and a half and whatever the heck that was to win their football game. But I look back at when Georgia played Auburn, they gave up 219 rushing yards on 43 carries. Auburn was averaging over 5 yards a carry. Last week in the Iron Bowl, Alabama gave up 244 yards to Auburn on 42 carries, over 5.5 yards rushing on this. Both of these teams you're going to go into this football game thinking that you can run on the other one. Is it going to be the double M's here, McKellen and Milroe, if McKellen plays and is able to just kind of run? Or is it going to be Roydell Williams that'll take his place on that part if he's not able to go? I have a hard time believing that McKellen is not going to play in this game unless like it is physically impossible for him to suit up. But who knows what it is? We'll wait to hear what our injury reports in this. And then it's taking a look at Georgia. Is Georgia going to be able to use their power backs? Is it take a look at Edwards. Is he going to be able to really get going on this? Is it going to be Milton? Who's it going to be for Georgia to run the football? That's going to be the big conversation that's going to be had in this game. The other one is which quarterback is going to be the electric playmaker in it. Carson Beck, he's looked very, very good. Is he Stetson Bennett? No. Is there a lot of guys out there who can play like Stetson Bennett? No. On that part. But he's been a nice quarterback. He's been one of the better quarterbacks in the country this season. Milroe started off very, very slow. There's some heavy criticism, probably rightfully deserved, earlier in the season. But he's progressed. And that's the crazy thing about him. You take a look at it and you can see the raw talent that Nick Saban saw in this game. Or lean up into this game. And you can see kind of what Milton has done over the time period. For me, Fresh, it comes down to which team am I going to trust more in this one. And Georgia's won 29 games. And I think about this, and I think about one of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time when I was thinking about this game. And that is a guy by the name of Mean Mark Calloway, or you better known him as The Undertaker. And The Undertaker has this phenomenal 30-year career in professional wrestling. And very early on in his career, The Undertaker won his first World Wrestling Federation title over Hulk Hogan, one of the biggest champs of all time. And then at the end of his career, when he had the WrestleMania streak, he lost to a guy by the name of Brock Lesnar. All people that you've heard, even though Fresh is not a wrestling fan here. Which one is it going to be? Is Nick Saban going to play the role of The Undertaker again and be able to cut out the hearts of the Georgia Bulldog fans? We've seen this song and dance before. Georgia luckily beat Alabama to get over the hump, but time is told with this. Or is it the final piece where you end the streak, you end the career of Nick Saban kind of as boss hog in the SEC. And really, if Georgia wins this football game, the argument can be made it's Georgia's conference over Alabama. I think that even being back-to-back champions, there's still a group of people that are hanging out there and go, yeah, but you're not Alabama. Because Bama's done it for such a long period of time. In the end, Fresh, this is a 6-point favorite. Give me Bama and the points. Fresh, Georgia's won 29 straight.
29 straight so far.
Yeah. Best year of my life was probably my 29. You never want to cross that 30 threshold, folks. Guess what? Georgia's not crossing the 30 threshold either. Alabama wins this football game. I think that their defense is going to have something different for Georgia. I think that while you talked about it, I think both of these teams were looking ahead to the SEC title game. I think that it was evident in their play last week. Georgia letting Georgia Tech hang around way too long for that game. Alabama letting a lesser Auburn team hang around way too long. Why? Because they're looking forward to this game. I got Saban winning this football game. I think I got Alabama making a claim that they deserve to be in the college football playoff. And I think that we can, at the end of the game, give a polite clap to Georgia because at this time, you've now established yourself as one of, if not the marquee program in the country. Sooner or later, Nick Saban's 72. Guy's going to be done here very shortly. It is Georgia's world that they're going to live in. I think it's going to be interesting to see how Georgia handles the new divisionless conference. I think that's a new world that we're going to be exploring in 24 here fresh. But the defense for the Tide, I think they have too many playmakers. I think they just have too many ridiculously good players. Give me Alabama in this game, and I like Alabama. I think it's still going to be close. Only a field goal game in this one. So if we wake up on Sunday and I'm wrong on this one, yeah, so be it. I got the Crimson Tide in this one.
That's right. You bring up a good point. It's the last East-West SEC title game. It's going to be interesting. It's you got to take care of business. You got to go out there and focus. Atlanta's always a tough place. Alabama, Georgia. Alabama's obviously owned that recently pretty heavily. So, but still, the task is there. You've got to take out Alabama back-to-back times, and if you can't do it, they're still going to have that air hanging over everybody. I have a feeling, though, it's going to be a Ladd McConkey ball game. I just have a feeling he's going to be healthy enough. He's going to grind it through, and he's going to make some big plays on Saturday.
Yeah, fresh. You're going to be introduced to a man by the name of Paul Bear. Oh, yeah. It's going to be
Wow,
rest in peace.
That voice was out there for sure.
Fresh, you need to go on the YouTube and see who Paul Bear is. He was the manager of The Undertaker for 30 years. He was a licensed mortician. Yeah, greatest.
Most people listen to this one, they probably think it's Paul Bear Bryant, but you're okay with Paul Bear.
Oh, no, I guarantee. Listen, if you're a college football fan, I bet you at least half of our fans are also professional wrestling fans. I guarantee you that, again, leave it in the comment section. If you know who Paul Bearer is, just let us know, Fresh, how don't you know who Paul Bearer is? And leave him like a gift to Paul Bearer going, he had to earn like this and hold it close to his face. There. All right, Fresh. Yeah. You're missing out on some great wrestling stuff there. Fresh, let's do some quick hits real quick here. I'm going to give you a game. Give me a real quick here. I'll give you the spread as well. Tell me what your thoughts are. Conference USA Championship, New Mexico State versus Liberty. Liberty is a 10-point favorite in that game. Who you got?
I'm going to take New Mexico State in the upset. I mean, there's two great quarterbacks, Diego Pavia for New Mexico State and Caden Salter. But I think this time New Mexico State has just enough, and they find a way to squeak out a big upset win and take down Liberty at Liberty.
Yeah, this game's also in Vegas. Boise State, UNLV. Boise State, 2-point favorite in that game.
Oh, give me the run of Rebels. At home, that offense, that team. Coach Odom going to get a conference title in his first year there. Boise State is not owning this league this year. They might have had a rare history, but UNLV taking home the title.
All right, Tulane, SMU at Tulane, home field for them. Tulane is a 5.5-point favorite in this game.
Green Wave has only scored 30 more points 6 times this season, and they haven't done it since October 28th. They're going to have to score a lot in this football game because SMU's offense is lethal. They've scored at least 31 in 10 of their 12. I think SMU, the Ponies, get it done. They light up the scoreboard down there in New Orleans and take out the defending AAC champions. SMU, big conference title.
Hey, I'm cheering for SMU hardcore, man, because guess what? I need SMU to win to open up the door for Toledo, man. I am on the Rocket bandwagon. Let's go, Rockets. All right, Fresh, we didn't do a deep dive in it because you just really can't stand the Iowa Hawkeyes. Big Ten title game. Michigan is a 23-point favorite. Over under those at 35.5. Iowa's not going to score more than 5 points in this game. That's if they can figure out a way to get Michigan into a safety.
I don't think they scored 2 years ago when they played. I think it was 40-something to nothing. I think it's going to be very similar this time. Michigan's going to wipe the floor with them. And honestly, this game can only hurt Michigan. They can't if they give up 20 points to Iowa, people are going to have more questions about them. If they lose in some whacked out fashion to Iowa, people are going to have issues. And they also, unfortunately, could get players hurt. This game does not help Michigan at all. this is the reason why there's getting rid of divisions. We're playing straight up best teams because Iowa and the whole Big Ten and West bring down the Big Ten champion when it comes to championship weekend. Michigan will absolutely dominate. And if they don't, people are going to have a lot of questions come Sunday morning.
Yeah. All right, Fresh. That's it. That's our conference title week here. Special thanks to our producer, Drew. Without him, none of this is possible. As I'm trying to get through here, he's the man behind the board. He's the one who produces everything. So help us out, guys. If you're watching this on the YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, get notified every single time we drop a new preview or a new episode. We got in 2 weeks, we have America's game, Army versus Navy. We're going to be talking about the playoff. And then we are going to be working towards bowl season, looking at the best matchups we see out there, giving our takes, who's going to be playing, who's going to be opting out. We don't know yet. It's going to be a great fun. Here's hoping for some chaos this weekend because, hey, you know what? When your team's out of it, you just root for anarchy because that's where I'm at, folks. Anarchy, Attica, or something along those lines. I'm supposed to be chanting. I don't know.
You're still a little salty.
No, I'm not salty. I'm to my anarchy stage. It's
okay.
It's the half stages of grief. They do not go in the same order. Mine goes from salty to anarchy to quoting additional professional wrestling, and just wait until I start making 80s references too. Fresh. That'll be the episode to really tune in on.
I'm ready for that. Can't wait.
Oh, yes. All right, Fresh. I'm going to be sending you some videos of Paul Bearer after this. All right, folks, have a great time. Enjoy all the college football. It's the last weekend of college football, really, of the regular season, I guess, if it's part of regular season.
Well, folks, enjoy championship weekend. We got a lot of great matchups. And get ready to yell at the committee on their, whoever they choose their top four. We got a lot of drama coming up. And with that, just enjoy it, embrace it. We don't have much football left. Obviously, bowl season's still there, but it's not the same. Live the dream, every game at a time, every play at a time. And with that, go Dogs, and bye, y'all.
Rest in peace.